Hi everyone, Anna's here. Welcome to the Money Date. It's a little bit earlier today and I wanted to hop on. I am attending a conference. You can see actually the beautiful view in the background. I am in San Francisco at a hotel called Palace Hotel. Amazing rooms, amazing kind of everything in the background. So I'm attending a conference, one of the best conferences in my industry by far. As far as the content, this is a Financial Planning Association conference called FPA NorCal. This is where about 600 of financial planners get together. Hi Angie, good to have you here. And yeah, so the conference is almost over. I've got more and more sessions to go to, so won't be able to come here live at 6 o'clock. But I wanted to hop on. Hi Sheila, good to have you here. I wanted to hop on and kind of share with you, because I didn't want to miss our money date. As you guys know, that stuff is important to me. But over the last few days, I've attended a lot of sessions. I had great speakers that I collaborated with. I wanted to share with you what I learned. And there's 3 takeaways. And I know it's a money date, and I want to remind you first of all, before I get into my takeaways, is that even though we're not having a traditional 6 o'clock meeting, I still want you to stay on the top of your finances. You need to make sure you are keeping track of where your expenses have been for the week. You remember where your money's coming from, right? And you remind yourself of what your savings goals are. You've got all of those things that you can keep track fairly easily using a cell phone. There are applications you can use, or if you have just a basic Excel spreadsheet, that's fine too. Remember, because those are the basic important things. If you can give yourself a relief and remind yourself, that's where the money dates come in. So what I wanted to actually tell you, 3 things that I've learned, and it's been interesting because it kind of ties in, to the overall growth and education component that I have to do as the financial planner, but it is something that I think applies to all of us, regardless of what you do. So number 1 is to find ways to give, and it's interesting concept because I'm not just attending a conference here. I'm a volunteer, and I've put a lot of time and energy and effort to work at this conference. Now, the reason I'm doing it is because I feel like that's the place where I can give back to my profession, because I love what we do as financial planners. Now, so there's 2 ways you can give, right? Doesn't matter what you do, you can always give money, right? If you have it, please find a cause that's worthy of your hard-earned dollars so you can give, right? Because now, at that point, you don't only think about yourself. If you get your ducks in a row, as I'm asking you to do every week, the giving component should not be as hard. Now, the other thing that you can give that I think we all have limited amount of is the time and the energy, right? So maybe perhaps you do not have financial resources at the moment to give. Think about donating your time, your expertise, your skills for a worthy cause. Now, that to me feels the most satisfying. So if I can give without expecting anything back, then that's a win. It's not a win for me, it's a win for somebody else. Okay, so number 2, hi Alexia, good to have you here. So number 2 was, as you guys know, millennials are going to be the next, or they are actually, they're not going to be, there are the next largest financial generation in our space. Okay, it's not baby boomers. Baby boomers are out into the sunset of retirement. So millennials are the next largest group. Now, because I attended a session that kind of talked about how we as financial planners should treat, or what should we do in our practices to support and service this group of clients, right? But I also want to challenge you, because a lot of you are parents of millennials. Some of you are grandparents. Some of you have brothers and sisters. So I feel like all of this applies to all of us, because there are people who surround you. And so think about millennials. It's not, there's a lot of stigma that goes around and says, oh, this is an entitled generation. They're lazy. They're not willing to, to take the steps. They're not willing to work hard. None of that is actually true when you start understanding what drives them. This is what I actually learned. Start understanding what what does this generation actually want? Because they are quite different. And so, so then your relationship changes with them, right? Your conversations are different, and then you start respecting and seeing for what they are, right? And so one of the things that I think is relevant here is to understand how you can actually inspire them, right? It's not always about, and because this generation is very independent, so it's always, hi Deb, it's always about, and I feel like if you want to make a change, you've got to show them or that person what it is that it's gonna benefit them. So that inspiration, because if they're inspired and excited, they're gonna want to take action, right? So think about that. Same thing goes for improving their personal finances, right? So I've got to look at my clients who are in that age group and say, well, all right, how can I inspire them to think differently about their finances? And that example can be applied to any part of your life. Help them identify. So number 2, help them identify what their values are, right? Because growing up, and I am kind of on the cusp of millennial generation and Gen X, right? So Generation X and Generation Y. I feel like I'm sort of at the cross border for both. And so identifying values, right, and important aspirations, hi Jesse, good to have you, is what is going to drive them, right? So combining the inspiration with helping them identify the values and then the importance of the why, right? Why is it that you want to do these things? And so the other thing that I thought was really cool is to give them space. Let them be, okay? So think about if these are your kids, kind of take a step back. I know I'm not a parent, and it's probably a wrong position to come as far as this piece of advice, but I feel like if you give space and support and inspiration and support, in approval, how do you think that person is going to behave? I think it's only going to provide the flourishing environment. So I thought this was a really, really neat takeaway. And then number 3, of course, what I am passionate greatly about is the women. My industry desperately needs to have more women. The statistics are awful, okay? It's like about, not even a quarter of advisors, right? If you look at all of the advisors in the space, not even a quarter of them are women. So that's something that we as an industry need to work on, because I want more women to have everything in life, to have a career that's really rewarding and satisfying, to be able to have family, to have all of these things that we want. And I feel like financial planning, the financial services space, is designed for that. So if I can help, spread that message, that's one of the goals. Now, we had a really awesome keynote speaker. Her name is Rosie Rios, and she's a former U.S. Treasury, and it was amazing, actually. So one of the things I learned, if you take out a dollar bill and look on the left-hand side, there's and you will see actually her name. So her name is printed on all of the dollar bills that are currently in circulation. So it's awesome. But one of the things that I learned from her is that since if we want to support the women and whatever causes we are truly passionately are excited about, go after the men that support those women, because women need to have strong support and strong foundation. And so the best part is start with that. So those are my takeaways. I'm gonna have to run. I appreciate you guys hopping on. Do not forget that Money Date is about you checking in with your finances. But think about, until our next week's conversation, think about what's important to you. Think about how to identify your values, and think about how you can give back. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you next week.